Oh, look, Bill.
And I talked to Stacy about it. I had a good email conversation. Yeah.
You're gonna sit next to Ron or?
But yeah, so it was, it's all good.
Man, he's turning red.
It's getting smaller.
So now everybody's gonna sit next to Bill, you get like everybody in the front row is going to the back. Wow. Look at the impact that your absence has had in the county. All right, are we ready, Lisa? It is 9:00 and we are here for our regularly scheduled business meeting, and this meeting's called to order. We'll start with our prayer.
Thank you for a new day. Thank you that we can meet together. Thank you for where we live, this amazing, amazing place that we live. And God, today I bless the commissioners. I bless everybody that's going to be in this meeting, that our hearts will always be for what's very, very best for everybody that lives here. We ask for you to fill us with wisdom, understanding, insight, knowledge from every decision that is made, not today, but always, how it will impact way down the road. And so we ask, God, that you would, we just say, let your kingdom come and your will be done in this county as it is in heaven. So I just commit this meeting to you and thank you for your presence here in Jesus' name.
Amen. Please follow in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
They just needed to stay for prayer, now they're leaving. All right, at this time, we'll entertain a motion to adopt the order of the agenda.
I move to adopt the order of agenda as presented.
There is a motion, is there a second?
Second?
Any comment from the public on the order of the agenda? Seeing none, any discussion from the board?
None?
Seeing none, roll call vote. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Next item is our consent agenda. We have a sheriff confidential item. It is a subscription renewal. We don't release that information. The cost is $11,638.35. He has another item that is over $5,000, which is why it's on the consent agenda, for $5,799.60. It is not a confidential item. It is listed as their bulletproof vests. Risk has a claim for it's an estimate, correct? It's not the actual cost. Yes, sorry.
Christian Jocelyn, risk manager for the record. Yes, it's just an estimate because we're potentially over 5,000. We want the approval before starting.
Okay, and so with that, one of the things we want is that Risk bring forward their request for approval before we do it. It is a $7,219.47 estimate. We anticipate that might be a little bit lower. Road and Bridge has an item, bulk dry cement for $123,630. The next item from Road and Bridge is bridge inspections and load ratings. That cost from HMH Engineering is $222,256.20. With that, we'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Seconded.
Any discussion from the comment from the community? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All righty, our next item is from Clerk Rosedale.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everybody. Before you, I have fiscal year 25 claims batch number 23 totaling $592,846.20. The big items on this are, drum roll, there's about $360,000 for solid waste, a big long haul contract of $250,000, another long haul gate, and $67,000 for another long haul contract. The other big one material one is our medical insurance of $105,000 and our pharmacy of $26,000. For your approval.
All right.
All right, I don't have any questions.
All right, we'll entertain a motion at this time.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve payment of fiscal year 25 claims in batch number 23, totaling $592,846.20.
Second?
Any discussion from the public? Seeing none, any discussion from the board? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you, sir. Justice Services, sitting in the back row.
Trying to hide. Morning.
Good
Morning.
morning.
Ron Stoltz, Director of Justice Services, for the record. I have 3 items this morning. Number 1 is a budget adjustment for our detention contracts unanticipated revenues. Bonner County Justice Services receives money from Boundary County, Idaho, Lincoln County, Montana, Kootenai Tribe of Idaho, and the Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections for housing juveniles in our juvenile detention center. Justice Services has received unanticipated revenue from these contracts in the amount of $30,686. The total monies received from the reference contracts for housing juvenile offenders is $50,686.
All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve resolution number 25-17, ordering the clerk to schedule revenue in the juvenile detention fiscal year 23-24 budget. Revenue account number 03475-4990, juvenile detention billing for use as an additional funding for juvenile detention fiscal year 24-25. Budget account number 03475-7430, repairs, maintenance, buildings, fixtures in the amount of $30,686. This adjustment is due to the receipt of unanticipated revenue received from contracts for housing juvenile offenders in the Bonner County Juvenile Detention Center.
Seconded?
Any comment from the public on this item? Seeing none, any discussion from the board? Seeing none, roll call vote. Yes,
Yes?
Yes.
motion passes. Next up.
Next item, Bonner County Justice Services receives lottery tax monies from the Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections each fiscal year. This past year, we received unanticipated revenue in the amount of $9,781.33. Total lottery tax received from IDJC is $9,781.33.
Thank you. At this time, we'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve resolution number 25-18, ordering the clerk to schedule revenue in the probation services fiscal year 24-25 budget in account number 03475-7430, repairs, maintenance, buildings, fixtures, to $9,781.33. This adjustment is due to the receipt of unanticipated lottery tax revenue received from the state of Idaho.
Second?
Any comment from the public? Seeing none, any discussion from the board? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Next week, hopefully, I'll have everything in front of you to be able to tell you how I'm going to spend that money. So, and then my final item is, again, another budget adjustment. Bonner County Justice Services receives drug testing supplies monies from adult probationers each fiscal year. We receive drug testing supplies unanticipated revenue in the amount of $10,224.07.
All right, we'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve resolution 25-19, ordering the clerk to schedule revenue in the probation services fiscal year 24-25 budget in account number 00661-8830, adult all drug risk probe SVS to $10,224.07. This adjustment is due to the receipt of unanticipated drug testing supplies revenue received from adult probationaries.
Seconded?
Any comment from the public? Any discussion from the board?
None.
Hearing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Matt Mulder, engineer.
Good morning. First item on our agenda is the advertisement for procurement of magnesium chloride. This is the product that we use to stabilize the gravel roads every year, and our budget for this year is $700,000 for this product, so we need to go out to bid for getting the best price of this magnesium chloride from suppliers who then deliver this product to various holding tanks throughout Bonner County that our crews can put down on the gravel roads as we're grading it. It helps to stabilize the materials and has the benefit of reducing dust, which makes it pretty popular among the public as well. And we are going to be bidding 4,000 tons, the same amount as last year, which is enough to treat approximately 400 miles of gravel roadway.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve this notice of advertisement for the 2025 magnesium chloride bid.
Second?
Any comment from the public on this item? Seeing none, any discussion from the board? Seeing none, roll call vote. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Road and bridge, item number 2, Matt.
Last week, we opened bids for rock crushing for all 3 districts. In District Number 1, the low bid was Peak Sand and Gravel in the amount of $295,840, and that is to produce 3/4 inch minus gravel, 6-inch ballast riprap, 3/8 inch chips used for our chip sealing operations, as well as our anti-skid sand for winter sanding operations. And we recommend awarding that contract at the bid tonnages to Peak Sand and Gravel to best serve Bonner County.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion.
I moved that the contract for 2025 rock crushing District 1 be awarded to Peak Sand and Gravel, Inc. for the unit prices listed on the bid submittal form for a total amount of $295,840, and authorize the board to sign the contract.
Seconded.
Any comment from the public on this item? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item.
Okay, same deal, but this time for District 2. Had the bid opening last week, and the low bid was Woods Crushing and Hauling Incorporated on this one in the amount of $437,500. And that is to procure 3/4 minus gravel, 3/8 inch chips, and then out of the county-owned Peterson pit up south of Priest Lake, 10,000 tons of riprap and 30,000 tons of 2.5 inch base rock. Since that is a county-owned pit, there's about $30,000 in mobilization costs just to move the crushing equipment in there. So while we're in there, we want to crush a long supply that'll last us a long time out of that pit, which is why that one is so much higher than the others.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
We'll entertain a motion.
I move that the contract for 2025 rock crushing District 2 be awarded to Woods Crushing and Hauling, Inc. for the unit prices listed on the bid submittal form for a total amount of $437,500, and authorize the board to sign the contract.
Second?
Any comment from the public? Seeing none, any discussion from the board? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
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 District 3.
Okay, District 3, we also opened bids for this, and the low bid was Woods Crushing and Hauling Incorporated in the amount of $256,307.50. This is to make 2.5 inch base rock gravel, 3/8 inch chips for our chip sealing operation. And we recommend awarding that to Woods.
All right, we'll entertain a motion.
I move that the contract for 2025 rock crushing District 3 be awarded to Woods Crushing and Hauling, Inc. for the unit prices listed on the bid submittal form for a total amount of $256,307.50, and authorize the board to sign the contract.
Seconded.
Any comment from the public? Seeing none, any discussion from the board?
I have a question. So, If you guys need additional rock, does it come at the same bid price throughout the year?
No, we would probably need to do a change order to increase the quantity if we were going to do that. I can't think of any time recently that that's happened. We've got pretty good stockpiles here that meet our needs, and we plan ahead for how much we need to use. So the exception to that is if we're having an emergency washout or something, then we might be buying some extra materials for a big landslide or something, in particular riprap.
Thanks.
Any further questions?
That's it.
All right, roll call vote. Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
motion passes. All right,
Item
next up.
5. In 2020, Road and Bridge submitted a safety grant application to upgrade 80 intersections with flashing LED stop signs and radar control so that the stop signs will start flashing as vehicles are approaching and flash faster if the radar does not detect that vehicles are slowing down. The signs would include solar panels and batteries, and the sign sizes would be increased to 48 inches, up from the typical 36-inch. And this would include 2 telespar posts mounted in concrete foundations with sleeves and posts. Contractor would install all of these signs, and the project would also add advanced warning signs, such as the stop sign ahead signs is what that is, to intersections that didn't already have them. And all of these modifications have been shown to effectively reduce accidents at intersections where failure to stop was a factor. This followed in particular the death of a woman on Sully Road at Highway 95, where she failed to see the stop sign and drove out into the highway. Just this last week, we had another fatality on Colburn Culver Road where someone failed to stop, crossed the highway, and ended up in the water and sadly passed away as well. So these kind of sign upgrades, have the potential to really help people to understand and notice when you're driving along and daydreaming that there's a stop sign ahead, and get your attention, help you stop in time. So originally, the grant was pursuing 80 locations. In order to fit us into the program, LTAC only had $550,000 remaining in their budget, so we reduced the scope down. There's only 34 locations in the grant program currently. The LTAC has found more money since that point, but the construction costs have risen. The total construction cost is now estimated to be $880,000, which is certainly a lot when you're looking at the number of locations this is doing. Part of that is that in how ITD bidding works, they have to rely on past data for what they're anticipating these costs to be. And they only have one data point in all their projects that use these kind of signs. And so they're very gun shy about this, and so they have really inflated the anticipated construction costs of this project to be overly conservative. And we are optimistic that the actual costs are going to be significantly lower than the $880,000 that they are anticipating going into the bidding of this project. Road and Bridge has to pay 7.34% match on that amount to move forward into this final phase and put the project out to bid. So that would be, minus some credits that we have through the design phase of this, $57,413 would be due at the signing of this agreement to move the project into the construction phase. That's probably about all I've got for presentation.
Thank you.
So I do have a few questions.
Sure.
One, I'd just like to confirm, just because it's not included in this packet, that auditing reviewed the 2 different accounts from which the funds are being suggested to come from.
Auditing did review this item, yes.
Thank you. And then I'm also seeing, appears from the information you provided, that it would just be appropriate for future budgets, if we move forward with this item, that a maintenance and replacement cost would be accounted for in future year road and bridge budgets, because there'll be some anticipated need to repair or replace these more expensive stop signs going forward as needed. So.
Yeah, we do have a sign line in our budget already. I don't remember off the top of my head how much is it in that line item, the replacement just for the hardware of these signs would be about $3,000 per sign location. If somebody ran over, broke the stop sign, broke the batteries, broke the solar panels, took everything out, if it all had to be replaced.
Any further questions, Commissioner Donkey?
No, those were the ones I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Commissioner Corn?
So if I'm doing the math correctly, each one of these signs come at a cost of approximately $25,000? Or just a stop sign with LED lights around it and a solar panel and a battery? Is that, and a radar detector?
It's the cost of construction for
What's
having a
this on?
contractor put these in and put the foundations in the ground, and contract administration by LTAC, by a construction engineering company. They have to throw in all those amounts into these bids when they're anticipating total construction costs. And they do that as, like, for example, the construction engineering has to be 15% of what they're anticipating the construction costs to be. So they're already inflating the anticipated construction costs out of really being conservative. And then they have to tack in $125,000 in construction engineering inspection which is just absolutely ludicrous. And we all know that, but that's the ITD rules on how these have to be bid and the match that has to be paid up front. At the conclusion of the project, when the costs come in significantly lower than this, we are going to get a refund back of our match funds.
Interesting, the old scenario of typical government, right? What you and I could put up for $1,500 is gonna cost us 25 grand. My comment's done.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. At this time, we'll entertain a motion.
I move the Board of
Do you have
County
public comment on that, or-
Commissioners
Yeah, after we go, motion second, public comment.
approve the state and local agreement for project key number 23286, stop control intersection safety improvements for construction phase. Make a final match payment of $57,413.
Second.
All right, any public comment? Go ahead. Remember to state your name and where you live.
Wayne Martin for the record, Bonner County resident. Because you mentioned the accidents, visibility on the signs with trees, bushes, brush and all, has that, or is that a possible determining factor?
It certainly is, and certainly was on the Sully accident. Following that Sully accident, we went in and brushed back a lot of the limbs on trees that were at that intersection. And since then, all those trees have been taken down as well, but it was absolutely a factor there.
And then 34 locations, do you have an idea where they're going yet, or is that still?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we have a finalized list.
Thank you.
I didn't print that out in front of me, but
And that's on your guys' site, on your future development site?
I don't
Or
think
was
it
there-
is yet, but we can add it. I did include the list with your packet. I don't know if you've got that.
I've got,
Handy,
do you
but-
want to include it on your site? Because you guys always post a lot of things up there. So we'll post it on their Road and Bridge site, and then you can see the locations. You're welcome. Any other public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, any discussion from the board on this item? None. All right, roll call vote.
I'm just going to state, because I agree, Commissioner Corn, with the general perspective and concern that the cost of things, they can be when they're not done by the private sector. Obviously, we don't have a choice if we're going to move forward with the project. The good thing in my mind is that, one, we understand that the estimates are likely very high as compared to what we should see the real numbers come in at. But then secondly, with the county portion being 7.34%, I think when we see the final number for the local cost to create the safety improvement, I believe we'll see that it has a reasonable
Only
cost to value.
2,000 a sign.
So, yeah, and that's the hard piece with safety, right? It's whenever we have the ability to work within our means to improve safety, it's hard not to. And so it's one of those things that is a hard balance that I think we have to always be looking at. But in this case, I'm optimistic that the actual costs, as Engineer Mulder has said, are going to come in significantly less.
I think it's, the LTAC contribution is over 500,000 for the project.
Yeah, they're contributing
contributing-
92.66%.
Looks about 550,000, so you see the comparison, if you wanted that number to our 54th, which I think is, as he said, it's anticipated to come in lower. So any other comments on this? All right. Roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item is sheriff.
Good morning, Commissioners, members of the public. Doug Begici for the record. I'll be presenting all three items. So the first item we have this morning is a maintenance agreement with NEC for 2 live scan machines operated by the Sheriff's Office. The agreement provides IT support for our staff to ensure both machines remain operational during the agreement period. We request the board approve the agreement in the amount of $3,860 plus time and materials should on-site repairs become necessary. The item was reviewed and approved by auditing and legal, and there are adequate funds available in the jail account.
Thank you. At this time, we'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve the annual maintenance agreement from NEC Corporation of America for the Bonner County Sheriff's Jail fingerprint printer and scanners in the amount of $3,860 and allow the chairwoman to sign administratively.
Motion, is there a second?
Seconded.
All right, it's worth commenting that Bill Wilson did review this and the required addendum was completed. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, any discussion from the board?
None?
Seeing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All right. Back to Sheriff's Office.
All right, thank you. So the next item we have this morning is a request for the board to approve the acceptance of funds from the Idaho Department of Parks and Recreation, Recreational Boating Safety Grant. This year, Bonner County is eligible to receive $103,919, and that requires a mandatory match of 50% in the amount of $51,959.50. Just for clarification, that match funds do have to come from the vessel account. That vessel account is used to largely create the Marine Division account. So that grant match is essentially just our operating cost in the season, or at least $51,000 of it. I asked the board to accept these funds and authorize the chairwoman to sign the grant agreement. This was reviewed by auditing, legal, and risk management.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll entertain a motion at this time.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve and sign the recreational boating safety grant agreement in the amount of $103,919 and approve the county's match of $51,959.50, which will be drawn from the marine vessel account.
Second?
Any comment from the public on this item? Seeing none, any discussion from the board?
None.
Seeing none, roll call vote. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Sheriff, Waterways Improvement Fund.
All right, thank you. So the last item this morning is a request to select Lake City Marine Services to perform the work necessary to repower our sheriff's vessel that's funded by the IDPR with grant. This was the item we talked about a couple weeks ago. The contract cost is $66,703.35, with $62,000 of that being covered by the grant funds, and the remaining $4,703.35 will come from the Marine Division account. Lake City Marine is a local business with a history of providing superior customer service support to the Bonner County Marine Division. Adequate funds are available in the Marine Division account, and this item was approved, reviewed and approved by auditing, legal, and risk management.
All right, thank you. We'll entertain a motion from the board.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve the request to award this project to the Lake City Marine in the amount of $66,703.35.
Seconded.
Any comment from the public on this agenda item? Seeing none, any discussion from the board?
I have a question, Doug.
Yes, sir.
What happens to the engines that you take off of the boat?
So there's a couple of options with those. They could be repurposed somewhere else in the county. they could be repurposed to another agency, or they could be sold. Lastly, we could choose to keep them in-house and use them as parts. We do the vast majority of our own maintenance on our vessels, and so unless something requires some significant expertise, that those have to go out. But otherwise, we do all that stuff in-house, and so we could also use them as parts. So there's a couple different options there, and there are. We're currently looking internally to see if we have a need for them on anything else that we're currently operating, and then I've also been approached by Sandpoint Fire, who would be interested in purchasing them as well, because their boat is in need of new motors, and these are significantly better than what they have.
Okay, because I'm assuming it's still in working order. They're just getting tired and they're expensive motors.
Correct. Yeah, they're so the motors have a little over 4,000 hours each on them, and that's about as high as we like to run those. And we have seen some in one of the motors in particular, we've seen some reliability issues. And because of the size of our boat, we could operate on one engine, but not very quickly and not very efficiently. If we needed to go somewhere in an emergency, we really need the dual motors to be able to get up on plane and be able to respond to an emergency or a call for service. But the engines are still operational. We really pride ourselves in taking good care of our equipment. And so if there's someone else that can use them,
He's taking a
That's-
call from someone who wants his engine.
Right. Thank you, sir.
All right, any further questions?
Nope.
All right, roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item is from, thank you, sir, Director Gabel.
Morning, Board, members of the public, Jake Cabell, Planning Director. So before you, we have a resolution to appoint some, or the members of the Agricultural Protection Area Commission. So the Board of County Commissioners appoints members of the APA, or Agricultural Protection Area Commission, per the newly adopted BCRC 16-201. Positions A, B, and C are vacant, which incorporates the entire board, or the entire commission. So the chairwoman of the board is recommending the following be appointed to the vacant positions. We have Aaron Roos to position A, Ron Friedland to position B, and Dan Elliott to position C.
I'm going to just clarify that the Board of Commissioners voted on these assessments. It wasn't me that did that. And I want to point out on this one, I actually like the note on the bottom that is underneath Bill's signature. I think that's a good addition that says that all legal questions, concerns have been resolved and that it's been approved. I like that addition of not just stamping it. But anyhow, at this time, we'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move to adopt resolution number 25-20, appointing members to the Agricultural Protection Area Commission per Bonner County Revised Code 16-201, and assigning them to the terms as stated.
Second.
There's a motion, there's a second. Is there any comment from the public on this item? Seeing none, any comment from the board?
None.
I think if you're interested in the APA, at this last iteration, there's been an updated piece of legislation that went forward, and Idaho Association of Counties wasn't supportive of the way in which it was moving forward. In part, there was a request for an actual financial aspect associated with the APA. So what this actually will look like, we'll see in the 3 weeks to come as they're in session, but we will have completed this. But right now, as of last Friday's update, it wasn't moving forward with support from IAC because of some of the changes that were being suggested. So in the end, we'll have our people identified. So any further comment from the board? All right, roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
motion passes. Next item is from our airport
Thank you,
director.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your time today. I have 2 items for you. Excuse me. The first is a request to advertise for bids for Sandpoint Airport obstruction removal project. This project will remove trees that are obstructions to the approaches and are located inside the runway protection zone and Part 77 airport approach surface of runway 2 and 20. This project will be funded by an FAA AIP grant, which was applied for earlier this year.
All right, we'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move that we advertise for bids for this obstruction removal project at Sandpoint Airport.
Seconded.
Any comment from the public on this item? Seeing none, any discussion from the board?
None.
Seeing none, roll call vote. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Lease lot 32.
Thank you. The second item we have is the opportunity to lease Lot 32 at Sandpoint Airport. The lease requires the lessee to build a hangar to county specifications that will revert to the county at the end of the lease term. Bonner County Airport's Advisory Board recommend that we enter into this lease.
May I ask a question on this one? And maybe it's just in general. We don't renew the lease at the end of the first term. It will revert, or does the leasee have the option to renew it and then it go to the county?
There's an initial term and an optional second term. The initial term is 30 years. The optional second term is 20 years. Generally, everybody takes the option. It's at the lessee's option, not ours. And then at the end of the 50-year period, that's when the hangar reverts to the county.
After the 50-year period, are the hangars viable for the county for 50 years of use?
Interesting question.
Well, and then I know I've been messing with airport for a minute, and then one of my questions that I had was part of what the airport's goal is to develop, using people to develop out the hangars, and then they develop the hangars, and then it reverts to the county. But if we allow a renewal period as optional, are we reducing the reason that we did it to begin with, because we get a 50-year structure that we then might have to remove versus being able to utilize, which was the reason. So my question is on that second lease.
Absolutely. The leases are written so that the optional second term to go the full 50 is not an option for the county. It is the option totally of the lessee. At the end of that 50-year term, and I've done some studies on this about building lifetimes. And in general, this study done by either Northwestern or Michigan, University of Michigan, I forget which, building construction or building longevity is not determined by the construction method. It's generally determined by the land use. So on average, they say that buildings last, whether they're metal, brick, or stick and framing, last about 75 years. And in general, it's not because that the building has failed, it's because the land use has changed and the community is using the land for something else, so they've removed the building. So based on that, we can assume that we're going to have 25 years, maybe 30 years after the end of the lease, where we will have the hangar to lease rather than just the raw land.
Okay. All right, thank you for answering that.
And these buildings are constructed out of all metal. They're not wood, they're not stick framed, they're metal.
There's a mix. We do
Oh, is
allow
there?
engineered wood pole buildings, provided that they are put together or constructed in a manner that will last us to 75 years.
Okay.
All right, any further questions?
No.
All right, we'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move that Bonner County enter into this lease for Lot 32 at Sandpoint Airport, and that the chair sign administratively.
Second.
Any comment from the public on this one?
Wayne Martin, Bonner County, for the record. And I may have misunderstood. The way that I heard you say was that it's 30 and then the 20 and then it reverts back to the county. But if the person does not take that optional 20 years, does it then revert to the county or does it take 50 years?
No, then it reverts to the county.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment from the public? All right, any further discussion by the board?
I would just like to recommend that we might entertain looking at going with strictly all metal construction in the future, because it does last longer. And if the land use doesn't change, the odds are much better that that building's gonna last longer if it was all built with metal and steel I-beams and such versus wood.
I can make a recommendation to the advisory board to consider that at the next meeting at the end of April.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I think I would like to also discuss the additional 20 years to make, because to review our process and make sure that's the best for the county to give the second option lease. Just that we actually say we reviewed it, because it's been there for a long time. And with the amount of people that are looking for hangars and the whole purpose is for the county to take over ownership, 50 years seems like a really long time. But there's a compare contrast, which I recognize, to the investment of the person building it versus the number of years that they're going to get to use it. I completely get that aspect. I would just like us to say, we reviewed it and that this remains reasonable and appropriate, or things have changed and we might need to make a change, in addition to what Commissioner Corn said at our next meeting. I think we're putting a lot on that, review committee on this next one.
I totally agree. In fact, I was going to recommend to the advisory board that we reconsider our terms for our leases.
Yeah.
Because in the past, a 50-year lease, and this is what the IRS kind of determines, the length of time it takes you to get your investment back out of your investment. So 50 years is the maximum that the FAA will allow. We're not bound by that. We can be 40 years, we can be 30 years, we can be whatever the market will allow. So if we were to reduce our initial term, have no additional term, and just reduce our initial term to, say, 40 years, the investor's still getting a good return on their money, and the hangar reverts with more life left in it and sooner to the county. And the goal is that we are leasing hangars at a much higher rate than we're leasing raw land. Takes a burden off the taxpayers, so I'm all for that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Hearing none? Well, you said something, I gotta make sure. Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Noxious weeds. Oh, I was like, I didn't see you for a second.
I feel kind of puny standing up here following Dave Shook, who's like 8 feet tall. Good morning. For the record, I'm Chase Youngdahl with Bonner County Noxious Weeds. Commissioners, before you is just a basic facilities use agreement with the University of Idaho. Annually in the spring, I host a seminar to provide noxious weed education for landowners, as well as accreditation for area pesticide license holders. I've reserved the Sandpoint Organic Agriculture Center for the event, which is a facility that's owned and operated by the University of Idaho. And they require a COI and a user signature on just a stock agreement in order to utilize their facilities. The Christians provided me with the COI, so I just need to get a completed agreement sent out to be squared away on this.
All right, thank you.
Is that, I understand it's a standard agreement and one that's been used before, but is this one that legal has reviewed?
Yes, and the signature stamp should be on your guys' memo.
It's not, that's why I asked.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for verifying. It just wasn't on the memo, so.
Okay, yeah, and I had clips of all 3 emails from Auditing, Risk, and Review submitted with the memo packet.
Any further questions?
And just quickly, the last sentence of the introduction or summary, an industry rep agreed to be co-sponsor and will pick up most of the facility rental fee. That's not a definitive amount. I'm assuming that regardless of that, that there's enough within the budget to handle the rental fee. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, I have an education line item that I have enough of a cushion to be able to cover these costs.
Okay, just
Yeah,
give us a
so-
non-specific amount so that I don't like non-specific amounts. 'Cause-
Understood. Yeah,
But
the industry.
if we had the ability to cover the entire rental fee, if the sponsor backed out, then that would be a safe condition to be in, understanding we could do that.
Okay. And it's covered regardless, so it would just be a bonus then with the industry rep covering, you said 150 to 200 out of the 220.
Okay, that'd be wonderful if they do so, just since we don't have a written obligation for a value, it's nice to know we can cover it otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
All right.
That was partly my question also. How come we don't have a definitive number on the rental fee?
There is a definitive number on the rental fee. It's $220. The amount that's not definitive is the amount that the co-sponsor then would share with me.
Okay. Let's see. Thanks.
All right. At this time, we'll entertain a motion.
Okay.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve the University of Idaho Facilities Use Agreement for the Sandpoint Organic Agriculture Center, valid for the date of April 23rd, 2025, and authorize the chair to sign administratively.
Seconded?
Any comment from the community on this one? Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Parks and Rec.
Morning, everybody. Parks and Waterways Director Matt Zoller. Request for the clerk to open Priest Lake snowmobile budget for unanticipated funds. Resolution. Unanticipated revenue, $5,444.51 was received and intended to aid in 9A groomer repairs. I would like to request an increase in Org 36, Object 7040, repair maintenance for this amount. This has been approved by auditing, and this is a pass-through to fix the state's equipment. So we anticipate that we would have been over budget. So to get ahead of it, I asked the state for extra funds, and this is going to cover those repairs and that maintenance. So we will remain within budget.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board?
Nope.
All right, we'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve resolution number 2025-21, authorizing the clerk to open the Priest Lake snowmobile budget and increase the line item 036-7040, repair maintenance in the amount of $5,444.51.
Second?
Any comment from the public on this item? Seeing none, any discussion from the board?
None?
Seeing none, roll call vote. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir.
Excellent, thank you.
Emergency management.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bob Howard, Director of Emergency Management, for the record. This memorandum of understanding is between Bonner County and Idaho Department of Lands for a grant award in the amount of $100,000 for hazardous fuels treatment associated with the bonfire program. The funds identified will be used for the Scattered Lands Phase 4 project. Grant match of $10,000 is accomplished by a landowner contributions or private corporate funds. This has been reviewed and approved by auditing, risk, and legal.
So no cost to the county.
No cost to the county.
All right, at this time, we'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move that the county approve the memorandum of understanding grant number 24 WFM-Bonner in the amount of $100,000 and allow the chair to sign.
Seconded?
Any comment from the public on this item? Seeing none, any discussion from the board?
None?
Seeing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? All right, second item, sir.
This memorandum of understanding between Bonner County and the Idaho Department of Lands is for a grant award in the amount of $105,000 for hazardous fuels treatment associated with the bonfire program. The funds identified will be used for dry fuels project, the dry fuels project. No cost share is associated with this funding, and it's for the Clark Fork area. And it's been approved by legal, risk, and auditing.
All right. Any questions?
Nope.
All right, we'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move that the county approve the memorandum of understanding grant number 24 HFR1-Bonner in the amount of $105,000 and allow the chair to sign.
Second?
Any comment from the public on this item? Seeing none, any discussion from the board? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Director.
All right, up next is District 1 Commissioner update.
All right, well, I do want to state that of all the training I've gone to in my professional career, I attended training last week as a new member of the Board of Equalization that was put on by the State Tax Commission, and the training was excellent. I can't often say that about training, but that was very informative, very useful, a good time spent for a day, and I just want to state that we should acknowledge when we have some folks at a state level that are coming in and offering that service, and it was very much appreciated. So that was a useful part of time that was spent, and we have been having, as everyone knows, I believe, many more meetings recently. We're trying to address a number of topics and issues, and so outside of that, my primary areas of focus have been on tasks that are in response to community comments and questions that are coming in. Those topics have been primarily focusing lately on road and bridge related items, whether it be road maintenance, future pavement or improvement to road systems, and or quiet zones associated with railroad crossings. Also topics having to do with land use, people commenting on land use files, or people who are commenting on what they believe to be or that may actually be zoning violations. And so there's been a lot of questions coming in associated with those topics. And then in addition to that, ongoing conversations about the forward opportunities and options we have with the ambulance district and how we're addressing that. So those are the areas of highest concern that I've been receiving feedback from the community on, and then therefore the areas of my highest focus to try to provide responses to those items as they come in. So beyond that, if anyone has any questions about my District 1 Commissioner update, I'm happy to answer those.
All right. Seeing none, we'll go on to District 2. Commissioner update, ongoing concerns. A lot of people have some concerns about roads. We do have a workshop that's coming up tomorrow afternoon with Road and Bridge regarding, are you going to talk about that in yours? Rapid lightning?
No, you can go ahead. Is that Rapid Lightning or Trestle Creek?
Or Trestle Creek, sorry, Trestle Creek. People are emailing. If you email me a question, I like to get an answer to the email. I'm not going to assume that you're going to attend a workshop. But that's been a point of concern for a lot of people. Oh, a huge thank you to Road and Bridge. We held an information session in Blanchard about Al's Welding Road. Director Top and a staff member attended who didn't have to attend. And we were able to address all the concerns that the community had about Al's Welding Road, with a lot of people saying if we did more of those kinds of conversations when people have a concern, then the temperature doesn't rise up. I got to speak afterwards to one of the primary frustrated community members off that road, and their answer was everything was resolved because I said you asked not a single question, but I've got tons of emails on this road, and it was Road and Bridge did a really good job explaining the history of that road. They brought the data about the road and explanation of the future, with also a solution for with an explanation about how they go about repairing and what they're doing in the easement and what the rights are in the easements. And we got a list of people that wanted to keep their trees, to not just depend on that knock on the door that says we're taking that tree down in our easement. But it was a fantastic discussion, well attended, with community members walking away feeling heard by Road and Bridge. So thank you to them for coming out during the wee hours of 5:30 to 7 to talk to people. But it was nice to hear an entire road say our issue's resolved, now we can move forward. So thank you to Road and Bridge. And to Jason. Jason has always come out when I say, hey, we've got a lot of complaints, let's talk about this. And we're always able to solve those. So I encourage people, as you have issues and concerns, we can lead with, can we have this conversation and do this research and find a solution for the community? And we've done a good job in the Southwest Bonner County area, specifically with roads on that. So thank you to them. I did post something about grizzly bear lower 48. Idaho Fish and Game is extending the period of time that you can give a comment from March 17th to March 16th. Are you crossing that off?
March 17th.
March 17th to May 16th.
May 16th.
To clarify the geographic location of grizzly bear. They're asking for comments. So I posted it on Facebook. You can go on to Idaho Fish and Game to see that map. A lot of people talk about critical habitat and as it affects planning. So if you want to give a comment on that, please do that. Today, we had Commissioner chat with Chief Armstrong. I did see a lot of people commenting that it was a push the levee kind of a discussion before they heard, but that's not what we were doing. We were talking about fire in our area. If you have a question about a levy, email him. He's setting up independent, let me explain it to you, but that's on the fire district to do. What we talked about, and one of the big takeaways for me was the idea of development discussions within our community that include planning and emergency services and our planning department, so that we're looking at a bigger picture of how we're developing versus saying it's one file. I think that was a little bit eye-opening. The other comment that was made was about cisterns, and we don't map our cisterns, we don't know where they are, so can we do a better job of helping our fire departments by identifying and educating people on what it means to clean those and keep those operational? I think that we didn't get anywhere near all of what he had to offer our community in terms of fire preparedness and growth and development, and I think it warrants some more conversations about where we're going. And for me, potentially, would a development discussion committee be something that we should develop so that we're looking at how we develop not just one file at a time, but in terms of more of the map and the development of the area, especially as we come up upon our comprehensive plan coming towards the board to potentially vote on for whether we adopt that or not. Having a committee that looks a little bit deeper about the health and safety and giving those recommendations, because LUPA requires us to look at the health and safety of our community, and development is definitely part of that. Tonight is a big night in terms of our safety summit. And so this was mentioned in a meeting yesterday with our Justice Services Director. But Lake Pondere School District tonight at 5:30 to 7 at Sandpoint High School is doing the Anxious Generation discussion. And so that's something, if you have time to participate with, it's free. They're offering dinner at the same time. Their topics are dangers of social media exposure, declining mental health among youth, excessive cell phone usage, loss of play-based childhoods. And so it's worth taking a look at if you do have the time to do that. And then if you like, one of the things that happens in this school, they post this stuff online, they post the YouTube videos. And so in our district of West Bonner County School District, it's worth promoting things like this in our areas to help out with our students. And so the other thing is I do once a year a town hall. And so our legislative session is probably going to go about 3 more weeks. But for Legislative District 2, which is Heather Scott, Phil Hart, and Dale Hawkins, we are going to do our Spirit Valley Town Hall on April 19th at 10 to noon. And it is going to be focused on community being able to ask specific questions of our elected officials. You'll also see Spirit Valley Precinct Committeeman Steve Truss will also be there to also discuss kind of that particular area. But important things have been happening with each of our elected officials at the state level. And I like to do an event that says, tell us what you did after we sent you down. You're welcome to attend if you're not in that district, but I focus that on Legislative District 2. That's the district that I'm in. I encourage people to participate and take a look at the decisions that were made by these representatives and how hard they had to fight for some decisions, and how you can help our legislative district make further gains when they're going down to state. There's some very high ticket items that we in Bonner County are very vocal about that we need to help our legislatures with. One of the things that Rep. Hawkins wants is more people that will read some of these bills. They get tons and tons of bills, and they're looking for people that want to help read and give that input. I have to give a special thanks to Rep. Redmond, because he texted me and said, I'm sitting on the floor going over this particular bill. What is the position of commissioners? So us giving our input is something that they actually want down there. And so it's worth having that conversation. So the other thing is we have Fentanyl Day is May 17th, National Awareness Day for Fentanyl. And so that's a huge one, especially in our schools. That's something that Dr. Myers is also supporting, is an awareness of Fentanyl Day. So one of my focuses is mental health and suicide prevention. So that's a huge one for me. So any litigation update, we still have open cases. We do not have any settlements. A lot of people reach out to me and say, has this particular case settled? There is no settlement. One of the things that we did change is, and thank you to our risk manager, Christian, I requested that we do an actual review of cases, not just paying bills. So we did complete that. We made some adjustments to how the board is receiving that. But now you have a board that is eyes on every case that we have, whether it's a workers' comp case or a general liability case, so that we can see where we're having leakage through litigation and where we're doing a good job. I'm focused on that aspect of it. The workshop pending is Road and Bridge tomorrow from 1 to 3 regarding Trestle Creek. That will be in this room. Commissioner Domke wanted to do a workshop on, or something you asked for a workshop on. Do you remember?
Which
It was, you asked for a couple, but let's just say we've had meetings, and when we come up to a bump where we don't fully understand the direction, what we're saying is let's have a workshop on it. So I'll do a better job of telling you which one, because we did have a long list of workshops that we wanted to do. For me particular, I would like people that are texting me and emailing me about the airports. There is a quarterly meeting coming up April 28th. That's where we're going to address the issues and concerns that people are bringing forward. But that's a huge workshop to attend if you have questions about airports. And
I can clarify if you're talking about yesterday's meeting,
yes,
it would be associated with Title 11 of the
Title
Bonner
11, that's
County
right.
Code. So,
and 12, we're going to do a workshop on
yeah,
both.
one for each.
Yep.
So we will be looking at proposed amendments to the language of both Title 11 and Title 12 in 2 separate workshops.
And then I received a comment that I'm going to mention and just kind of pull. So I received a comment about the way public comment comes into the meeting. So I say the person presents, I say motion, first, second, and then I go to public comment. Some people want public comment before it gets motioned. And so is there a desire to have public comment right after the speaker? I know the person who emailed me wants it, but what's kind of the temperature? Do people care about whether it's right after or after a motion is second? The reason I do it the way that I'm saying it is you hear the presenter, you hear the motion, because in theory, the board has actually read their packet, and so they know what they're going to motion on an item because they've researched it. And that way, when you're giving public comment, that you're giving the public comment on the direction that the motion is going. So if it's not the direction of the motion, you're giving a comment that might not have you knowing the direction, because it's up to the presenter of the motion to actually make the motion. Sometimes people will say, I'm going to motion and second for discussion, but that's the reason that I did it that way. So, and I do agree that it used to be that after the presenter, we would just say public comment. So anybody care, other than the one person who said it?
I prefer doing it the way that you're doing it. Wayne Martin, Bonner County.
So we're 1-1. Anybody want to break this tie?
I'll break it.
Well, does she count? She's your wife. She's an extension. There you go. Well,
I did not give a written.
you didn't get a permission to give that comment.
I agree.
And then the dissenter back there in the corner, speak loud, the microphone will pick you up.
Okay, well, the reason that I said that was, and I listed a case where there was a case a few weeks ago where the commenter, the public commenter, who wasn't allowed to comment until after the motion was made, brought information into the picture that the presenter didn't give and the board didn't have. And so the person who made the motion, which was Commissioner Korn, and rightly did, but he didn't have full information, then I was able to bring information that Commissioner Korn and none of you had, and the presenter, which was the planning department, didn't give. Now caused, oh, well, okay, we're gonna vote no on that motion and make a new motion.
But that's what we want to do. We want to vote, we want you to give a comment that changes the position versus,
I guess, but why not just gather all the information you can before you make a motion?
or what we got to witness was Commissioner Korn, who made your motion, heard you, received the information, and said, I'm going to change what I did and change the motion. Okay? I've got to address it. You brought it forward as a comment. I reviewed the comments, and I'm gonna say we're gonna continue as I've been doing it. All right, with that, that's it for me. Any questions on Diane Welly?
Oh, yes, I just wanted to comment on the last topic, or this topic, is that I prefer that the public have a chance to give input, because that may change your decision whether or not to make a motion or not. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a really good example of the board hearing what the public said on a motion that we didn't move forward with what was motion. And I think that's part of what I thought of when I wanted to change it, is we're listening to you. And you can say you walked away and you made an impact on the board. So points for you for that. All right. Okay, with that, we'll go over to District 3 Commissioner.
All right, so I did attend the free speech event last week sponsored by the Bonner County Democrats. That was presented by Sandpoint Police Chief Corey Kuhn and a few others. I found it kind of interesting that the meeting opened with rules of decorum for the night, and they seem to be followed at this meeting. The topics discussed were how to be a peaceful protester, how to make a citizen's arrest, and that you don't need to be resistant in order to uphold your rights. Number 2, the fairgrounds held their sponsorship and fundraising dinner last Saturday night to raise money for this year's fairgrounds events. There were many opportunities to sponsor certain events and areas in the fair. There was a live and silent auction with many great items. The fairgrounds is committed to keep it local, family-friendly, and involve as many businesses as possible. Going forward, I would like to see if maybe we could even help a little bit more with their advertising and stuff to try and get more people in to raise money for the fairgrounds. Bonner County Republican Central Committee meeting is tonight at 6:30. The venue place has changed. It is normally at the Ponderay Event Center, but tonight it will be at the VFW. Dr. Fletcher will be speaking about Panhandle Health District politics. Should be interesting. The Panhandle Health District monthly board meeting is this Thursday at 2 p.m. at the Panhandle Health District building in Hayden. They will continue the discussion on creating a committee regarding informed consent on vaccines. If this is something that you're in support of, I would highly encourage you to attend in person or online. Next Friday, we have the Bonner County Civil Defense and Resilience Team monthly presentation. They will be presenting a class on the foundation and function of our Constitution. It will be presented by Sean Morgan, a Navy veteran who has presented classes in the past, such as biblical citizenship and other constitutional teachings. This will be in the downstairs EOC room on the fourth Friday, which is the 28th this month, at 5:30 p.m. There will be a Zoom link for those who want to attend online. And lastly, I would like to personally recognize and thank our office manager, Veronica Dixon, and our Commissioner Williams for their time and effort putting together our St. Patrick's Day lunch and event yesterday, and for spreading out all those gold coins.
I cannot be the only one. Did anybody else have gold coins for Leprechaun Day?
Well, the ones that you gave.
In my childhood, that's how you went and found the leprechaun. It was the gold coin
Follow the
pad.
gold.
And yeah, thank you. All right. With that, we will go to public comment, and Christina is online. Going once. Going twice. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, this is Christina L. Nicholas Anderson, Bonner County resident. And I am just following up on what Ron just said, or Commissioner Korn just said, that he'd like to support the fairgrounds more. I'm kind of appalled to hear that, given the fact that I just spoke with you last week, Mr. Korn, about the fact that the fairgrounds has been paying their contractor $5,000 a month when they have a $1,000 contract with her. Talk about frivolous spending. I don't even have to know the details. I read the contract myself, and I have the billing statements for the last 6 months. So if the fairgrounds has that much money to throw around, and public comments that I've gotten is that the work is about $750 worth. I'm sick to my stomach right now that you want to throw more money at that. So having said that, I know there's an executive session today to discuss that very issue. And I'm wondering why that's executive, because this is not a personnel issue. This is a public contract. If you look at the money that's going out on their profit and loss statement, it reads bill, B-I-L-L. So that's no different than if they're paying the utility bill. So I'd like to know why this is an executive session and it's not being open to the public. With that, I will end and say that, yes, I do support the fair, and I'd like to see their money being managed in a way that they can do more. If this person's being paid $60,000 a year, the fair manager doesn't make much more than that, and I would venture to say that their office staff isn't making that much. So thank you for hearing what I had to say.
Thank you, Christina. And I'll tell you that the Board of Commissioners is reviewing that. And I think you sent in a records request kind of at the same time that it was brought to our attention. And when we go into executive session to address this, it will be with Bill Wilson regarding the contract itself. I don't know there's more details about that particular payment, but part of what we're doing, and I spoke with you on the phone about this, is doing our job of reviewing what is happening there. And I can tell you that I did reach out to the fair manager regarding that payment. I also reached out about the idea of our future plan for the fair. We have a new fair member, Mr. Bauman, he is almost done with the report for the kind of that 5-year plan for the fair. The Fair Board is going to be reviewing that and then they're agreeable to having that discussion with the Board of Commissioners about the vision. He took that project on. He's going to be out for a personal reason for a few weeks, but he did message me and say as soon as they have cleared it through the fair that that's the vision of the fair, they are going to be transparent with the board. We are going to address contract. Mr. Wilson is going to address contract because of the issues, but I don't want to go into detail with that because there's that separation between the two, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing by the fair. But this board is actively encouraging that dialogue and requesting that future plan of the fair. And in defense of Commissioner Korn, I think what he's saying is he wants to generate support for the fair, which is separate than the board addressing the functions of the fair and how they're spending money. I think his comment is getting more people involved with what's happening at the fair is what he's advocating for. I don't think it's a disregard for the concerns related to finances. And I think you see that evidence in the way this board has voted and come together requesting that they put together that plan, that they bring it before the board, that they're open with communication. I don't see, and I'm trying to go back in time, I don't see a dissenting vote on any of these board members regarding the concerns that you bring forward. I think what you're hearing from him is a dual, let's support the fair, but we also need to do our work to understand what the fair is doing and bring some stability so that we have that future plan. And I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I don't want to
Thank you.
be negative, because I think that's what he was doing, okay? All right, second comment from approved by the household. It's him.
Yeah, I'm the only one. Wayne Martin for the record, Bonner County resident. First off, I'd like to thank you, Commissioner Williams, for having Chief Armstrong come and talk. Yeah, there's a lot more that needs to be, presented to the public on that. I've presented quite a bit of information packets to the commissioners. I have been given some feedback as to possibly how to better separate it for you folks to be able to go through and look at it at some point in time. I'm not going to give you less.
No novels?
No, I'll give you more if you want. And the third one,
develop a committee for you.
the third one is on the fair. part of the package that I gave you was on the fair, and it was also given to the fair manager. And I hope that you folks will continue to follow up with them and to get them to look at what has been talked about in the past and the failures or lack of response of setting their goals. And I'm glad to hear that, they're now looking at that 5-year and hopefully beyond that 5-year plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's what our board is doing, trying to develop that relationship.
Hello, my name's Lance Badger, President of Schweitzer Mountain Properties. And I'm responding to notification that we received last week from staff canceling the workshop that we had scheduled with the board about the Schweitzer community. Needless to say, we were a little surprised since we did not see it on any agenda and did not have the opportunity to respond at that time. So there was also a comment made in last week's planning update meeting that stated that S&P declined to submit information related to the request by the board. I'm here today to correct the record by saying that we did respond to the board's request, and we did submit documentation on a flash drive with all the relevant planning documents and files in the beginning of December last year. I have a copy of the letter I submitted to then and a copy of the planning memo to the board from staff acknowledging receipt of that information. We had anticipated that after the review of the information that this board would have questions, and as such, we had scheduled an informational workshop to share with the board Schweitzer's past, present, and future, along with graphics to illustrate and provide context. Given that Schweitzer is one of the largest economic contributors to Bonner County with over 800 employees, we assumed the board with its new members would be interested in getting an update on the Schweitzer community. With that said, we are still willing to give this board an update through a workshop and to even tour the board through the community to see firsthand some of the improvements and the happenings on the mountain. So I thank you for your time.
So I want to clarify what happened is the workshop appeared, and the question that I asked was, there was a withdrawal. And so we got a letter, and I forwarded on because I went back to double check. So during the actual hearing, the board requested some information. And so then what we received in response to the requested information from the planning department was S&P Development has withdrawn their application for, and they list the files, please see their letter below. And then, so that's what we received. And so the question was, this is a project that, I have a hard time with the word, that you guys want to move forward with, right? And so there were applications done. And so my question was, is this workshop just feeling the board out to see how we would make a decision on it versus you guys submitting the application? And so that's where the question came from, because there was notification to this board that you withdrew, but they also noted in this very same email that you guys wanted a workshop with the board as well. So that's where the question was, are we workshopping to an answer of how we would approve that when the application was withdrawn? So that is, and the information requested in the hearing that we had wasn't actually received. And if you look back at that hearing, one of the comments from the attorney was, well, we don't want to show our full hand. And so how do we plan the development if you're not going to show the hand? And then the email came through because I believe it was Commissioner Domke wasn't here, so I forwarded him the December 3rd email that said withdrawal but request for workshop. And so I think the board can have a conversation with planning, but that's why it was canceled, the actual request was withdrawn without the information that the hearing that we had wasn't provided to the board. It was just withdrawn. So we can look at that with planning and see what the appropriate steps are, but that's why a workshop was canceled.
May I respond?
Yeah.
When we withdrew because it became apparent that there's a lot of information that that we knew because it's what we deal with every day, but wasn't common knowledge to this board. We also had 2 new commissioners coming on, and we know that there's 40 years of history here and a lot of complex documentation supporting the entitlements and how Schweitzer came to be. So there was no urgency for us to follow through on that application. We can come back in any time. We were not trying to feel out the board. We were trying to bring the board up to speed and share with the board and the community all the changes that have taken place most recently, leading up to the transaction with Alterra purchasing the operations. There's a lot of confusion out there. There's a lot of misinformation. So we thought it would behoove everybody to do an update. And from my understanding, there have been updates in the past with different boards at different periods of time over the last 40 years. So we have no specific agenda. This was really a response to the requests that came at that meeting that we should do a workshop because it's
The request
confusing.
was for the information, because I remember there was a document that went back decades that the Board of Commissioners did not receive. And so the request wasn't, can we do a workshop on your project from the board at that hearing? The request was for documents. And so then instead of that, what we got was a withdrawal of the application. And so if you state what your purpose is for the workshop, then we can sit down as the board with planning and determine, is that reasonable and appropriate given that you're trying to make a plan for the development? But the information requested from that hearing, because I recall very specifically, the attorney, in response to a lot of questions asked about some of the legal documents that went well beyond what this county had, her comment was, we don't want to have to show our full hand of the plan. And I was very vocal on, I want to see the plan because I don't want to do something that doesn't move us in the right direction as a county, not specifically just for one development. And so then it was withdrawn. So if you submit what you're looking for in a workshop, then I think the board can reasonably take a look and see if that's reasonable and appropriate. But that's why the workshop was canceled.
Just to respond to that comment, I don't think that's the context in which she stated that. She was talking about the planning process and that showing the full hand in terms of planning design and land planning. You can't get to showing all that until you have the first step, then the second step, because it costs so much money to get to all the engineering and all the planning. And I think her comment was basically referring to, to get to that stage, you have to have some steps going forward through the process.
I understand, but even in the last few weeks, didn't we have a water emergency up there?
That has nothing to do with me, so.
But it's development in that area where the county was notified of an issue with water, and it became in so many hours how many homes wouldn't have water if you guys couldn't, if I say you guys, could not make the, identify where the leak was coming from. And so as a sitting commissioner, where part of what we're looking at in terms of development is the health and safety and all those other things, that's part of your wanting future development, which was a lot of the conversation on this project was also related to water and logging and the availability of emergency services at the location. So I think my comment is accurate to say, what is it that you're looking for? And then let us go to planning, because what we received was a withdrawal without the requested information, but then a workshop. And it's not clear of what we're doing. Are we being felt out for how we're going to make a decision versus you guys presenting your file? I think that's what took place here. And so maybe we need to define what the workshop is and what you guys want to present to the community so that we can see if that's the right way to go for this development.
So I'll just put it out there. We have ongoing files coming in. We have subdivisions. We're actively working on multiple areas up there. We have 2 new board members that came in this year, and we know there's a lot of information to digest. So we don't have any active applications in right now. We anticipate submitting some in the near future, but this isn't to feel anybody out. This is to educate this board and bring them up to speed on 40 years of history here and where we are today. It's an offer. We thought we were responding to a board's request when we put this together. If the board elects not to do a workshop, that's fine. I mean, I'm just trying to make the process easier and make ourselves available to information.
And I appreciate that.
If I could step in real quick.
Sure.
So are you wanting to do more of a presentation instead of an interactive session between your organization and ours? Or are you looking for interaction?
Always looking for interaction. There's a lot of information. I'm sure when you start going through it, you're going to have a lot of questions, and so that's going to require interaction. I find out new stuff every day about the last 40 years. There's something new that pops up. There's just so much information there, and part of the effort is in the future is to consolidate that, clean it up, simplify it, take out the cumbersome nature of it. But that's more administrative and mechanical. It's really also understanding what's happened up there with the community. In the last 4.5 years that I've been up there, you've had a hotel open, you have condos open, you had the whole mountain transfer to one of the conglomerates up there in terms of ski operations. You got a lot of things going on up there, and it was just worthwhile to share with the board.
Okay. All
So,
right.
I'd just like to state that I would greatly value understanding what the long-range master plan for the mountain is.
Sure.
And how each individual application fits within the greater vision.
Yep.
But we have to make sure that information conversation playing out does not fall into ex parte communication associated with land use hearings. And so I don't quite know what that looks like right now from a process and legal perspective. And so I think we'll have to get legal counsel's opinion on if the board wants to move in that direction, what's the right process to follow so that we don't trip over doing things legally.
Sure.
And I think that it's appropriate to do. When you look at other counties when you see large development scales, they actually have to do workshops before they put in their request. The difference here is you guys actually put it in, pulled it, and I remember the thing that I was looking for is you guys have some legal notice that you were referencing in that hearing that we had never seen, but it wasn't given to us. And even in the email that canceled it, because I went back on this one, it never came through to the county to understand by what you guys are justifying some of the comments that were made. So let us take a look at what it is that you want to present, which I think you guys have to tell us, because it just says workshop, which I think is a little bit too generic. Like these guys are saying, I think we need a kind of what do you want to present fully? What do you see that looking like? And let us hand that to legal to say, is this okay for the board to do to get that clearance? In this case, what happened is it just got scheduled. And when I saw it, I said, wait, they pulled their application. Why are we doing a workshop when we didn't get the requested information? So why don't you guys send us that information and then we talk to legal about what our boundaries are?
Sure, and we can also wait until we have an application prepared and then submit that and do a preliminary workshop before.
We may not need to do that. I think that the community would like to see the full plan that you guys have for the development as a whole, because that allows us to make a decision on density. It allows when fire takes a look at your project to say, can we service this particular area? It allows us to have a greater vision of the development, and it's in part almost 100% of what Chief Armstrong was saying that we should be doing, having that development discussion before it happens. So my hesitant is similar to theirs is what are the legal ramifications of us doing that when you put an application forward and then withdrew it, but did not give some of that information, and what are the boundaries? Because I couldn't call you since that application was there and tell you to give me something, because I have to follow rules. What are the rules of the conversation if you're going to come in a different format that this county isn't set up for? If you were in Kootenai County, this kind of development would go before an actual review before you put the application in. So we want to make sure we're doing it the right way. So can you send, if I respond back to this email saying, can you explain what the scope of the workshop is, you send that to me, and then with what, not the actual information you would submit, but what you want, and then let us send it to legal and planning and see what their opinion is on it.
Okay, and just to reiterate, the zoning's in place. It's already there. The density is already assigned. Everything has been mapped out. But there are so many documents that cross-reference each other to kind of get to that point. And it was trying to clarify all of that because it's a hard set of files to navigate.
I agree, and you guys are going back decades, and that was part of the hesitancy that I had was you're talking about documents that are not in my packet. And when you talk about increase in density up there.
We're not.
When you talk about developing that area, I need to know what I'm approving.
Sure.
And that is where I didn't have that information. So if we do that, I think we can accomplish everybody's need because I think the community wants to see what is the growth that's happening, what is the plan, the board wants the information, and you guys want to move forward. And so we just need to make sure we're doing it the correct way. The workshop was just scheduled by staff saying we want a workshop versus saying, wait a second, what are the commissioners' roles in this? Given that it's a decision that it needs to be made.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowman.
Dave Bowman, Bonner County. Just one quick follow-up. I didn't know I was going to follow Schweitzer, but there's a significant density increase asked for on that application in the lower areas where they want to go from ag forest or actually upper also to recreation. That's a huge density increase. That's not why I got up here to speak, though. One, I thought on Commissioner Corn, I find it ironically humorous that Chief Kuhn would be giving public information on how to conduct a citizen's arrest. He should maybe go to school for that himself.
I'm just reporting.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't you that were humorous. It was humorous that he would do that. I want to thank the three of you for putting on these workshops that came up yesterday in the planning, because even though it may seem like you have all the information, you don't. You're not planners, and you don't live in the areas that are where people have local knowledge. And there's a lot of issues there are a lot of information that will come forth in those workshops when you have them. So I know it probably seems like things get workshopped to death, and I get that, but they are a necessary part, I think, of doing this stuff right. Commissioner Williams, you brought up, now I can't even remember, but you were talking about should there be a committee or should we form one for long range?
The development.
Yes.
What Chief Armstrong, it's you, actually. I blink when I see you. I know his name. Chief Armstrong mentioned a development review committee that used to be in place that addressed fire.
Okay. So that's what we have a planning commission for. And it is unfortunate, and I'll even say this with the applications that have come in for, not just Schweitzer, but I look at a lot of applications. We have a planning department, and I know I've hammered on this before, and it's not personal, it's not managed by a planner. And we have someone who manages the planning department in a business-like fashion very well, but is not a planner, and it shows in how things come in. So applications are being run through that shouldn't really even be accepted because they are not properly filled out. They don't really give the information on the applications. In a workshop, in fact, leading up to an application being filed can be very helpful because it would bring in the kind of information. And really, the planning department should not be accepting applications that aren't complete, and they do it a lot. It leads to an overburdened zoning commission, which brings in the need for the hearing examiner, which I think we don't need. We've split up the planning and zoning into two separate commissions. The planning commission is the long-range planning arm that should be doing that work. And the
planning commission and the zoning commission operate in silos, so they aren't working with each other, and they really should be, so that when a short-term thing that comes before zoning really should not be in a silo over here, because it affects the long range. If we talk about cumulative impact versus specific impact and all that. So the whole thing really needs to be looked at. The planning commission has not, how many years have we been at the comp plan now? And they're weary of it. Meanwhile, things that have got reworked in the comprehensive plan 2 years ago and finalized, things have already changed to make them not as valid today as they were 2 years ago. They're working blind because they don't get the data from the planning department. That's what the planning department should be doing, is going out and getting the information and the data and compiling it and giving it to the planning commission and the zoning commission, but it would be even better if they were together. It's a mess. But that's what the planning department should be doing, rather than trying to figure out how can we make some other committee to do that work. We already have them. They're just not, they are not being guided by the planning department with the data that they need to do what they do. And they do as good a job as they can do, but they're lacking data.
Thank you. And maybe that's something that we, as a board, have to give better direction on, as to what our committees are focused on. Mr. Lady, I know you have a rebuttal. Mr. Lady.
Jim Leedy, Spokane County. I just wanted to point out to technology that when people online speak, it goes to speaker view, so the timer can't be seen, so they can't see that at all. So I was wondering if maybe we could change that so it doesn't go to speaker view. The other thing I'd like to bring up is, do we need the timer anyways? Very few people adhere to the timer. Quite often people speak way over the 3 minutes, and then the commissioners speak way over that. And sometimes public comment just turns into many meetings. So I'm wondering if we can just abolish the timer completely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, sir, round two.
I'll be quick. I just want to correct Mr. Bowman's erroneous comment. We are not asking for any additional density. We've got more than enough density up there under the existing entitlements. And so, for the record, we are not asking for any additional density.
Okay. All right. Oh, I know I didn't notice you. Where's your husband? Is he okay? Brett's on here.
Yeah.
Okay.
He couldn't be here. Okay, Jennifer Arn, Bonner County resident, and I'm requesting to put on next week's commissioner meeting agenda a discussion decision regarding a Bonner County version of Idaho House Bill 101. There's right here.
Can I ask you a question on this before, because you specifically gave when you want this on the agenda? Can you give more time for a legal review of your request, because yours is specific? 1 week is, we have to at least give legal 2 weeks, so are you okay if I push it 2 weeks out?
Or if we could start the discussion on it maybe, and then come up with something and then have legal.
You want a
review
discussion?
it? I
Well, you
don't know.
said you wanted a Bonner County and you handed us the document, so is this what you're asking for us to adopt?
No, not complete. This is what Idaho House Bill 101, and obviously it would need to be tweaked and adjusted.
Are you
for
going to
Bonner
offer
County.
a tweak and adjusted version that you want?
I would like to be part of that discussion.
Are you asking us to do a workshop on your request for this?
Yes, I am, I guess. Yeah, if that's what's necessary. If I can.
Can I ask you to write your own draft of what you want for the workshop if we do a workshop? Because I don't want to have a read through and just a discussion. If you had an example of what you want Bonner County to adopt, do you want to submit that and then we do a workshop on that? Because if you don't, then you'll end up with multiple workshops versus you giving us something that you want adopted and then we review it. You got to do a little bit more work. I'm pushing you to do a little bit more work.
I've been doing a lot
I know,
of work over these last few
and I'll
years,
tell
yeah.
you, that's why I'm asking you to do it, because you have been very close to it. You know what you want in it. You know what is important to you, so why not draft that and submit it to the board to review in a workshop? And then we have a example of what you want. Otherwise, you're asking us to write it, and I am confident that what we write won't hit all of the things that are important to you. You are passionate about this one,
Yes.
so I'm asking you to write it.
Okay, but anyway, I wanted you to have the information there, and obviously from
Did
your
she just pass
perspective.
by and not say yes?
I didn't say yes, I'm trying to figure out a way of
Saying no.
May I also suggest that,
I just want it to happen
Ms. Arndt,
the smoothest
it'll
way
happen
possible.
far more quickly if you make a suggestion for how to revise county code for our consideration and discussion in a workshop, than if you ask us to write the initial amendment.
Oh, right,
and
right.
then
No,
hold
I
the
understand
workshop.
that.
So that's gonna save a lot of time if you have a proposed amendment.
I
know
I
who could
have
help
this-
you do that. There's a gentleman in the back that has done a proposal. He's right there.
Yeah,
He
I
could
know.
help you write that.
Sitting in the corner.
Yes.
Yes, okay. My purpose right now is I wanted to present that information for you for some ideas from your side of the desk. But yes, most definitely, I will come up with something that I will propose for you.
So I'm not going to put this on the agenda for next week. I would like your proposal for discussion.
Okay. I just.
You can't give me your homework assignment to do.
That's why you guys make the big bucks.
No, this is important.
Right.
Our job,
Right.
you have had a focus on this. You want us to adopt it. You need to draft it and give it to us.
Right, yes.
You can ask us to do it. I'm telling you, it's gonna take far more time if you.
No, I understand that. I understand that.
That's the issue, is how much time would you like it to take before this comes to a workshop with actual language to be adopted or not? That's really what it comes down to from my perspective.
Yes, I would like it to happen as soon as possible so that it could be part of our plan. Okay, bear with me. Don't just put your no face on.
Look, I don't have a no face. I have, what you should hear on that side is, I value what you want to do, and I would like to expedite it getting done, but the way that you do that is you bring forward what you want.
Yes, I understand that. And I agree wholeheartedly. I just thought if there were some perspective that you have from me seeing this as I draft that, coming from your side of the table there, that would be helpful for me in writing something that will be acceptable for you. So I just want to get the discussion out there, and
We will take it as a reading assignment, but on the agenda, I am encouraging you to give a draft of what you want. Because you started with saying you want it on the agenda for next week. That's why the conversation started on the next week comment. I would like you to present.
If I have a draft for you before the agenda is printed on Friday.
Why? We would want legal to review it too.
Right, okay.
Don't
Got it.
rush something that you want done properly. It's okay if it takes a couple weeks, but if you write it, we send it to legal, we review it, and then when we have the discussion, it's on something that we could potentially pass or make some amendments to in real time and get the direction that you want to go.
Okay, so our timeline here is I need to rewrite this and send it to you. And then.
And give Bill is a minimum of 2 weeks to review is the requirement.
Okay, so that all I need to do, as far as scheduling anything, I just need to come up with this and send it to you. You will send it to legal, and then it will appear on the
I will
agenda.
give you updates in email to say, I will copy you and say it's been sent over to Bill, and then Bill can review it, and then also, I'll also copy planning for a comment, and then we will have a real discussion on what matters to you.
Okay, and can I just, for the record, state some
You may.
some things on it? Okay, so this is regarding vacations or abandonment of roads that provide public access to public waters and lands. Okay, And that's all covered under Idaho Code Section 40, 203, Chapter 203. Okay, so I would like codified in Bonner County Code that maintaining public access is in the public interest under 203H. So that you preserve, you have the full power to deny road vacations when they provide public access. And the one thing in this bill, there's so much emphasis on replacement access. And that would only be in a very narrow banded situation where it would be a win-win for everybody involved to relocate a public access. But basically, it's giving more teeth to denying road vacations in Bonner County if they're going to cut off public access. And one thing that I thought that was kind of important in this is in 1927, when Idaho, the legislators put forth Title 67 and Chapter 43, where they made Priest Lake, Lake Pend Oreille, and Coeur d'Alene Lake specially designated, and the lands adjacent to them, the state lands adjacent to these lakes, are hereby declared to be devoted to a public use in connection with the preservation of said lakes in their present condition as a health resort and recreation place for the inhabitants of the state, and said public use is hereby declared to be a more necessary use than giving it to private access or even agriculture and power at that point. So if our predecessors in 1927 saw how important it was to preserve these, that I think it's very important that we have something in our Bonner County Code, because I feel pretty confident on how this board would judge something like that, but we didn't lose all of our access previously by people making good decisions. So I would like something in our Idaho Code to help protect what we have left.
Okay.
To clarify, you said Idaho Code. You would like to see our county code amended to have this type of protection language. So that's what we're clarifying.
Yes,
That's what we're
yes.
asking.
What I'm saying, the state
Right, but that's
has
what we're
to
asking
put
you to bring forward is a proposed amendment to county code.
Yes.
Just to be absolutely clear.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Williams.
Mike Williams, Bonner County resident. I'd like to touch base on Mr. Bowman's comments about the incomplete filled out applications. I've asked a few times for you to send me documentation to support your decision to approve those. I never received any to back that up, that it was a good idea to approve them. I've said multiple times, I'm not against, building in Bonner County or anything like that. But as someone in a community, and a lot of my members have come here, who's having to deal with the repercussions of Bonner County filling out an application with 5 acres and then magically it's 4-something acres with no remainder requested or anything like that on the application, and then property is stolen and then sold to somebody else that benefits your employees who had worked here at the same time they were doing it. It feels like it's time to get maybe a secondary look before it comes to you. Like Alex stands up here and says, oh yeah, we have all these MLDs, they meet the requirements. And then you just say, oh, okay, Alex, good job. It's probably time that somebody else looks at them before it gets to you. Maybe you can get a board together, a conflict of interest board, and maybe somebody who actually reads the comprehensive plan that you've created and then compares that with the application. Maybe you could do that if you don't feel like doing it yourselves, and I'd have to go through the process that she's going to, maybe you could send that process to me and I'll follow it. That way I can, get you guys to get some sort of board together for that.
Okay, thank
Can
you.
you do that? Thanks.
Cheryl Messer for the record, Bonner County resident.
You have not commented very often this year.
I don't comment a whole lot. Some things I'm passionate about. So the meeting on the 13th for the planning department and prosecutor's office with you guys, and then there was one on Monday with planning. So I haven't been able to look at them and all that. But I had a question on, again, Title 12 Land Use Regulations, proposed amendments by planning staff, proposed amendments as requested by members of the public. Is there a place where we can follow the drafts on that, the changes on it?
You can see drafts on the planning website, and one of the things that happened after that planning meeting was this board said we need to do a workshop on Title 11 and Title 12 independent, and so once those get scheduled, but on their website, you should be able to see their iterations. Usually Jake puts those up there.
I haven't been able to find them. I haven't noticed, like under the comprehensive plan, any differences, any changes in it.
It won't be under the comp plan
It's-
portion?
Where will it be? I cannot find it. And if I can't find it, that means it was in the draft packet.
So yeah, when we have when there's an agenda item for an individual meeting, and then there's a packet, then those proposed amendments that are being reviewed in that meeting will be in the packet.
For the planning committee, under the planning department.
So that'll be, if you look at the calendar, and then there's attachments associated with the meetings.
Okay.
In my
Okay.
mind, that's the easiest way to find them, is to look on the calendar, look at the meeting you're interested in, and then look for the attachments. When you click on that meeting on that date, and that page comes up, any attachments should be included with that meeting at the bottom of that page.
And unfortunately, one of the things we learned today was you have to scroll down for the most current on some of them. So you have to, clicking on the meeting like he's describing is the easiest way to look.
Okay.
I'm going to verify.
It'd be nice for us, I know sometimes at the planning meetings, they'll have, and they're making changes, they'll show you the draft, and they're making changes. It'd be nice to be able to
Easy
kind
to
of
find
keep
it.
up with those.
So, yeah,
A little bit.
Using yesterday as the example.
Yes.
We had the planning department update meeting, held at 1:30 yesterday.
Yes.
So if you go to that meeting on the calendar, either on the main page of the county website or on the planning department calendar, if you select that meeting, it'll open the web page for that meeting, which is titled at the top. If you scroll to the bottom of the page, it'll have the attachments. So in this case, it had the agenda attached and then the packet attached, and you can find those details in the packet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So we're getting ready to close out, so I'm going to comment on the public comment. So we changed this meeting to say it's from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And so in part, the community gets an opportunity to be in front of the full board for comments just during this time. And so I haven't been paying attention to the 3-minute timer because some people have more stuff to present, but we are going to be doing the hard stop at 11. And so I understand some people come with things that they need some back and forth on if we're going to put it on the agenda. So that's why I'm not using the 3-minute timer, is sometimes we need a little bit more, but we're doing stops at 11. So with that, no one else has their hand